Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos, man.
Why are you looking at me like you're scared of me?
Oh, let me mute this. Because I'm just laughing at the last comment we talked about.
Oh.
You know, because we've been actually doing this work here for over 3 years now. And we've been like kind of rocking it. You know what I'm saying?
God, these
great
people
weekend.
Are so fucking stupid, man.
They are. I hope you enjoyed our Saturday interview with Theodore Rose. That was the last thing we dropped out. We had a busy week before that, fam. I think we did 6 shows in 6 days. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on. Last week was utter madness. As you know, we've been deplatformed. Not deplatformed yet. We've been demonetized from YouTube.
Can you explain, Pasta, to very ignorant people out there that say we're not being censored because we're still on the air, how being demonetized classifies as censorship?
Well, I mean, here's the thing: when you're not in the YouTube algorithms, when you're not part of the monetization program, they won't promote you, that kind of thing, put you out there, share you more. As you can see, like 96 people are in here right now. By this time, we usually have like 200 and change, and it will be moving up. But it's also too as well. I mean, it's kind of a crypto censorship, right? Because now they take away your monetization, right? Unfortunately, we're not at a point where we're just, we're self-sustaining yet and whatnot, where we're moving that way. And the more time, if we have to go out and work and do other jobs, it takes away from this, right? So that's what they always try to do. They try to hit you in the pocket, get you consumed with other things, get you stressed, get you questioning yourself so that you don't do more of this. And that's exactly what they did to us. So
basically, when you demonetize someone, you force them to apply to work on your own terms, and you're literally stealing. These corporations, YouTube, Google, are literally stealing money from us. They're literally taking any sort of ad revenue they make, and they're taking all the super chats that you would give us and keeping that away from us, and keeping you from asking any sort of question, participating on the show. Yeah. That's what they're doing. And because most of the things we got on YouTube were not through ads, because they would demonetize our videos anyway. It would be through the super chats. It would be through people participating. It would be through people interacting with us. When you demonetize us, most channels stop producing on YouTube, which, I mean, we're not going to put up our clips anymore and stuff. We're going to put them on Rokfin, because why would I continue making money for YouTube only? What am I, a slave? And so it's just, it's really disgusting. This capitalist system works. And, there are people that are happy that we got demonetized because they say we're fash, which when I was young, fash meant fashion. Now apparently it means fascism. But it's really stupid, because it comes back and bites them in the ass. A lot of these people will have some sort of podcast or something that talks about leftist things. It's eventually going to come for you too. It's not, you can't just say, "Ooh, it's conspiracy" and all this other bullshit. You can say that if it helps you sleep at night, but the reality is it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And it really, all this is done is like highlight how bad censorship is, and highlight how bad things are, and bring people more into the forefront as to what it is. And it's helped us too, actually. So the people that want us to stop, we're not going to stop.
Yeah, but there is a solution we have.
It's Rokfin.
It's Rokfin. Rokfin. Tree Hugger went over there and gave us a super Ray tip. That's awesome. And just talking about the super chat, right? That was the 90% of our money, where it came from, right? So all they did was eliminate the mechanism, and they were taking a nice 30% of those tips anyways, but they just eliminated the mechanism to get us, financial gains. Right. We don't even need, if they said we're going to take away your advertisement money, I would have been like, okay, take it away, because you mostly say that we're not suitable for advertisement. This video, that video, this video, that video. So the fact they just really just took away, I mean, how fascist is that? It's really disgusting.
That's fascist.
That's fascism. Tree Hugger says, "I pledge $5 for the knowledge you give us young ones." Tree Hugger. You give us peace and love. Guys, get over to the Rokfin. Rokfin. We have a busy day today, so we got to get rolling on this show. Hit that like button, that thumbs up, hit the share button. They're also kind of squeezing us out of the whole
algorithm.
Yeah, so that we can't get the word out there. So we need you to get in there and help us out. And it's just funny, Fim, because this first section kind of talks about, like what we're experiencing. The little guys, there was an article in The Blaze. There was an article on Fox. Caitlin Johnstone wrote one, too, as well. People have been talking about on shows. They went after small, independent progressives, right? They went after the little person. And they did the same thing on Wall Street last week. So we always say, well, what the hell? What's our government doing? What's their place? They said that we can't put our videos up and stuff because there's a cesspool of QAnoners and people giving out disinformation. Meanwhile, our government sold us weapons of mass destruction for years to invade Iraq and cause violence. They gave us Russiagate for years and years and years. So who's the one really lying? And they don't care about you. Your government doesn't care about you. So we're going to get into this right now because this whole Wall Street's bet revolution, fam, it's just begun. They're not going to take this lying down. Reddit has kind of gotten their back, whatnot. Reddit's doubled down, and Reddit is playing with the whole, look at these little small guys. Take a look. So what they did was, I didn't see this yesterday. I don't know if you guys did. They had a 5-second commercial. So check it out. Here it is. That was
in the heart.
That was it.
What? That's fucking
5-second commercial because what we were talking about yesterday, right? Now, first of all, the commercials felt like I was getting a talking down from corporations on how to behave. You behave. Let's come together. Forget about what the government's doing. Come together with our citizens. Just comply. You know what I'm saying? Just behave.
That's pretty much what
behave.
It was.
But pause. Let's take a look and see what the commercial said itself. It's kind of cool, the message. I'm going to read it real quick. And this is what I mean, that Reddit is kind of actually doubling down and standing by the little guys in this one. If you're reading this, it means our bet paid off. Big game spots are expensive, so we couldn't buy a full one. But we were inspired and decided to spend our entire marketing budget on 5 seconds of airtime. One thing we learned from our communities last week, and that's the whole thing, is that the underdogs can accomplish just about anything when they come together around a common idea. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the reason finance textbook have to add a chapter on tendies. Maybe you'll help Superb Owl. You can't say Super Bowl. Teach the world about the majesty of owls. Maybe you'll even the majesty of owls. Sorry. Maybe you'll even pause for this 5-second ad. Powerful things can happen when people are around something they really care about, and there's a place for that. It's called Reddit. So Reddit is doubling down, fam, on this whole kind of thing right now.
Are they doubling down because they think it's like beneficial to them?
I just gotta say, what I've seen on Reddit is that they actually censor a lot on Reddit, and it's interesting that they're doing this.
Well, it's beneficial to them, right? It's propaganda.
Beneficial. Yeah. I feel like it's propaganda.
Yeah,
that's what I've.
It could be. It could be. A lot of people are saying that. I was seeing some stuff with the owner of Reddit, how they started this whole thing.
Like if they didn't bring back Wall Street bets, like there would have been an even bigger protest.
A bigger protest, yeah.
So they actually saw that. They didn't double down like how we've been seeing, other protests, the police double down and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. And that's something we have to talk about right now. Is Reddit, once again, those kind of controlled opposition thing? You talked about this a long time ago, and I had a lot of friends that went on Reddit. It was very, very neoliberal-ish of sorts. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. Yeah. It wasn't like that independent cutting, you know what I'm saying? And they did censor a lot of people and stuff. But I'm wondering what's going to happen right now.
In the last few years, it wasn't like that in the beginning.
At all?
No.
See, I never got on the Reddit in the beginning and stuff.
Yeah.
So who knows where they're going to go with that. But listen, I love that move. I love that they put that up there. So I don't know what they're trying to say, what they're trying to do. But listen, what happened with the big boys last week and the little guys and stuff. And I think this is kind of, I don't know, maybe they'll rebrand themselves and move forward this way. Who knows?
Yeah, I just think that they're taking advantage of how popular the subject matter is. And that's what they're doing.
It's funny how they spent their whole budget on a 5-second commercial. But that, in essence, was the whole message, too. Like, look how it is Super Bowl Sunday to get a commercial.
Right.
Did we see any small business whatsoever? No. And that's the new thing they're doing now. It's local. Eat local. not small business, local is a thing. So you can have your local Applebee's or your local Chili's or your local. It could be a corporate restaurant. It's just eat local now. Don't worry about small business. It used to be eat small business wise, right? Go to the private restaurants, go to the small restaurants. Now they're not doing that. Now the code word is local. So that's their new twist. And I saw a lot of those commercials yesterday about how we behave with each other. It was just ridiculous. But just going through the message, we want to talk about what's going on. What is Congress doing about this? We saw Elizabeth Warren write the letter pretty much going after the Redditors. It was messed up because she was taking their side, and supposedly she was supposed to take the side of the little guy, or the little person, excuse me. Maxine Waters, who's one of the heads of the committees that's going to be bringing a lot of these Redditors and a lot of the people from Robinhood and a few other, she said, hopefully Wall Street people to Washington to talk about this. But I want to just say right now is that Maxine Waters voted against the repeal of Glass-Steagall, her and Barbara Lee. That's why I remember her back in the days. Pelosi voted for it, of course. She wanted it gone and stuff like that. But there once was a time that Maxine Waters was a champion of the little person. Now, just like Bernie, been in Congress for so long, it affects you, it changes you, and there's a lot of hogwash out there and a lot of white noise because they know exactly what's going on. This should be cut and dry. Like I said, we should be talking about a criminal investigation. But look how they're just playing this, and you better believe it's this whole kind of, anytime they say anything critical about the big boys, fam, they're just yelling into the ear because they're not being specific, and they're not going to hold them accountable. And that's why I talked about this the other day. I said, let's break this down, let you folks see this. This is Maxine Waters. Let's get started on the first one. When she waters down what the hedge fund's actions are. Pretty much she's going to say, we got to learn, and there's going to be a kumbaya. We're going to bring everybody here. So, Maxine Waters.
House Committee on Financial Services. Representative, great for you to take the time. Thank you so much for doing so. So are you coming into the hearing on the 18th already sort of assuming that Robinhood has been guilty of wrongdoing, or in your estimation, is there room for the company to present exculpatory evidence in its defense?
I am not starting this hearing taking sides or believing that Robinhood is guilty of anything. As a matter of fact, this hearing is going to be educational. It's going to be a learning experience for everybody. We're going to have all the players. We will have not only Robinhood, Vladimir, Techneve, I think is his name, Teneve. We'll have him there. We'll have the young man there from Reddit, who his name is Keith Gill, who basically started this mania. We will hopefully have some hedge fund representation there. We're going to make sure that we're not taking sides. We understand what is being said. We understand what is being said by Robinhood and why it did what it did in terms of limiting the buying. We understand that the hedge funds have lost a lot of money. We understand that, the shorting is a big issue and a big conversation. But what a lot of people didn't know about was the short squeeze. And so we're going to learn an awful lot. We're going to have them all here.
All right. Fam, your initial thoughts, do you have anything to say on that, whatnot? I mean, the fact that she says that we're learning stuff, and she's like, I'm not taking sides over here. We're going to pull these people in.
Yeah, I mean, she's saying she's not taking sides, but she's saying Robinhood has nothing to worry about. And she's saying, the hedge funds lost a lot of money. Like, she's obviously taking a side. She's taking the side of the corporations. And she's just presenting it as this is going to be a giant learning experience for everybody to basically allow these corporations and these politicians who fucking are controlled by them to explain away that no, this is okay. They had to do this because they needed to pacify the market and help blah blah blah. They're gonna make something up because this is the same thing that happens at a local level when you have city council people say we're gonna hear everything, but the lobbyists are in there, whether it's AT&T lobbyist or whether it's any kind of developer. They're there to basically present the information. It's the same way the opposition is there to present the information, but the lobbyists have a whole fucking PowerPoint and they have the money and they basically make deals with the representatives, the city council people. So it's the same shit. It's just at a federal level that we're talking that this is happening. And it's just a replica of what happens all over this fucking country when these politicians who are completely controlled by the Wall Street pretend that they're being impartial when you damn know that they're not impartial at all, not even a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, once voted against Glass-Steagall, the repeal of Glass-Steagall, and now look where she's at. You know what I'm saying? The hedge funds don't even have to be there. You know what I'm saying? She's like, maybe we'll get the hedge funds. They're not going to show right now. And she's just going to allow these people to get away with what they got away with. I mean, right now, even the host was like, are you coming in with this kind of one avenue? Like, we've already seen what unfolded. Or are you going to just... And she's like, no, we're not taking any sides. Like, what do you mean? He's already even saying, like, we kind of know they kind of screwed up right over here. We kind of know they did something funny. Maybe we should start from that point. Like, why did you halt the stock one way? Anyways, let's go to the next part, because really, to tell you the truth, and they know this too, that the Robinhood CEO, Vladimir Tenev, went on TV and said there was no liquidity problem. Then they kind of walked it back, moonwalk style again, and tried to change the way.
Right.
So he said plain and simple there was no liquidity problem. So what was your reason for halting a stock one way? Maxine, muddy in the waters.
Representative, you touched on this a moment ago. Robinhood has argued liquidity was the reason for limiting trading. How does that justification work? Does that make sense to you?
Well, I don't really know what he's talking about. He's talking about being out of compliance. What he says are requirements that they have a certain amount of liquidity. And I don't know if he means that in terms of reserve or what it is to be matched up with. But this is what he claims. And so we're going to listen to him. And of course, we will have information from the SEC and from FINRA to find out exactly whether or not there are laws that cover liquidity and how much they must have on reserve or anything like that. So we're open-minded. We're going to listen.
Yeah. So pretty much they're exploiting the loopholes, whatnot. We're going to listen. We're going to find out what the laws are. Fam, we've said this before. So many times we say this is illegal. It's actually legal. And they leave themselves loopholes to find ways to do things like this, nefarious ways to halt the market in their favor. So I just wanted to point that out. This is another good part right over here. Did you have anything else to say about that one? Okay.
Waters, what are some of the tangible reforms, if you can give us a potential preview here, the laws, the actual legislation that might end up emerging from something like this? And do you see that some of those reforms might be aimed more at the brokers like Robinhood or more at the hedge funds, the Melvin Capitals and the Citadels of the world?
Well, I don't know, but I do know this. We're living at a time when it seems that the gap between the haves and the have-nots has grown. And there is a lot of resentment toward the richest 1% in this country. It seems as if they have the advantages of the relationships with elected officials, and they put big money into politics, and they make big money. And you have some of the big hedge fund guys who are billionaires and all of that. So I suspect that there is resentment. And I think there's resentment against, short selling. I think there's resentment against hedge funds being able to borrow and to drive down the price of stock. And so I think that, that will be looked at, as well as, Robinhood will be looked at. And I tell you for myself, with Robinhood, I never thought to ask them in the one conversation I had with them a couple of years ago, where they earn their money and how they earn their money, particularly when they told me they don't collect commissions. And I should have thought to ask, so how do you survive? What do you do? How do you earn your money? So we want to know a lot more about that. We want to know about the relationship with Citadel, and we want to know exactly whether or not that relationship undermines its ability to have this platform available for these small retailers in the way that they think it is available to them.
So, I mean, she never really answered the question, fam.
Right.
This gentleman keeps putting it out there. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to kind of do reforms for the
Right.
brokers. You're going to do reforms for the hedge funds. What are you going to do? And she's, oh, well, that yelling into the air. Well, we're going to find out what's what. We're going to hold them accountable. And they never really hold them accountable. They don't change laws. They know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? They know that they can do these things. They should have had laws in place for a long, long time. Since the repeal of Glass-Steagall, The average person, their funds are just up in the air. They can be lost at any time because these banks that are commercial banks can take it and go and invest in other ways. They can bet with your money. You know what I'm saying? It used to be separate, that commercial banks were separate from investment banks. Now they're merged together, and that just creates a whole bunch of malarkey, I should say. And once again, here is Maxine Waters not giving us any solid answers. What are you going to do? What laws do you have to reform so that the average person can't get nailed the way they did? Nothing.
Exactly.
And this real quick, I just want to say something, this little small one. This is just to show you, fam, that it's, and everybody else, we know this, that it's not a partisan issue, right? I mean, it's not. There's Republicans and Democrats. And here you ask her and take a look what she says.
I'm curious, do you see this as a bipartisan issue, Representative, or are you facing significant backlash from Republicans?
No, it may be bipartisan, but usually what you have is you have those members that are closer to Wall Street, who work closer with private equity and with hedge funds, and then you have those who have no relationship to them and do believe that they need to be reined in, that they have too much privilege, too much power, and too much influence. So it's divided.
There you go. So, fam, it's bipartisan. You got people on both sides of the aisle that take money. That's what I'm saying. It's all about the finances, whether you're bought by corporations or you're not. And I just want to put that point out there because I thought it was kind of cool that she kind of just admitted, both people on both sides of the aisle are by Wall Street, and they really are. So
yeah, they really do. Yeah.
And the last part of this, really quick, because this is a really big part. We talked about this last week with some of the Tesla stock, but take a look what Congressman Waters says when asked, should you be able to buy a stock? And I think it's like, once again, if you're legislating policy, you shouldn't be able to buy investments that can, the policy can affect that, like the new electrical car thing that Joe Biden wants to do out of the blue. And so, and it just so happens that Pelosi was holding on to some stocks of Tesla. Take a look.
I think a lot of this is understandably so going to continue the conversation, Representative Waters, about whether or not it's appropriate for members of Congress to hold stocks at all. And this is an issue that we saw litigated to some degree with a handful of former Republican senators, especially the last year. Should a member of Congress be allowed to hold positions in publicly traded companies?
Well, what I think is that members of Congress should be allowed to invest, should be allowed to earn a living in all of the ways that's open to the average public. But insider trading absolutely cannot be allowed. Everything that's done to ensure that advanced knowledge and information is not available to members of Congress. And if they get caught, they should have to pay a price for it and, be convicted of insider trading. And so I certainly don't think they should have any advantages. But if there's a way that they could invest and earn money or lose money, they should be able to do it.
Fam, your opinions. Should they be able to do it? Is it possible, if you're a lawmaker and you're making laws that regulate the banks, that regulate the market, if you're a lawmaker, is it possible to never have an inside information whatsoever? I mean, look at this article when it comes to Nancy Pelosi right here, right? So it just so happens that when Joe Biden came in, he had made a rule that he wanted to replace the federal fleet of cars, and that's 645,000, federal cars. He wanted to change to electric. So, of course, the Tesla stocks shot up like crazy, and guess who was holding on to them? Nancy Pelosi and her husband.
Right. No, it's not possible. I mean, you're always going to have more information than the average citizen. You're a fucking congressperson. You're a public servant. You have access to all these avenues of information. You're not going to tell me to trust in the honesty of politicians at this stage of the game. But I mean, I don't believe that we should have this system where you have to focus on stocks and all these things. So to me, the point is moot. The system isn't working because eventually, no matter how many regulations you put on Nancy Pelosi and these politicians and these corporations, the whole point of capitalism is to make profits and put profits over morality, put profits over people, and compete for a limited amount of resources and a limited amount of profits. So it doesn't matter. You say no, they're not allowed to do that. They're going to find ways around to do it. So capitalism sucks. That's all.
Especially when it's unchecked capitalism, automatically turn into crony capitalism. I think it's a big no. I don't think that lawmakers who can affect the market make it swing either way. I mean, by going pro-electric, anti-electric, what we say, whatever we do, it can make the market go either way. They have so much stake in the game, right now with all the stocks they hold. If you look at the Congress right now, they're all holding a large amount of stocks, and it seems like they're trying to push their legislation in the way to benefit their stocks. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that we have to think about. This whole Wall Street bets thing has just started, fam. It's going to get crazier. This hearing is on the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to check with our crew. Maybe that's in about 10 days. Maybe we can do a watch along, Johnny, that morning. We'll see what's going on. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. So get the date set, the 18th, and watch this hearing, because a lot of stuff's going to come out right now. I don't think there'll be much love for the little guy, for the common investor, because I think that they'll get screwed on right now. Just the language that's coming out of Congress right now when it comes to Elizabeth Warren and even Maxine Waters. Not that she was like really, really, heavy one-sided, but she was definitely just kind of giving, just like bullshit.
Well, the thing
answers,
is, there's no
what I'm
both
saying?
sides to this issue, really. Yeah. Like Wall Street and through manipulation, Robinhood should not be allowed to stop these bets. Like, they should not be allowed to do that if the 1% always get away with doing it too, right? Like, it's kind of like you're arguing in this system, why is it unfair? Well, because it's made to be that way. And this is the whole way that it's always going to be at any point. You say crony capitalism, to me, capitalism is crony itself. Yeah. So.
Well, a lot of people believe that capitalism unchecked will always turn into crony capitalism.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then some people feel that about socialism and communism, that if it's unchecked, it will turn into an authoritarian state no matter what. I always say, let's get some hybrid. Let's take the best out of everything and make it happen.
Well, it's another conversation for another day, because I don't think you can have a hybrid capitalist system. I mean, I think what people are afraid of when they say socialism, they're afraid of, like, there's no economy, and that's not the case. It's just a different system. You have to get it out of this thing that it's some ideology. It's more of a system of monetary system. Capitalism is a monetary system more than an ideology. The monetary system isn't working. So whether you want to call it like bunnies and beavers, like, it doesn't matter. It's just not working. So we have to put in a new monetary system. That doesn't mean there's no markets. That just means that it's done a different way. So when people look at socialism, they need to stop looking at, like, a radical commie with his, like, his hammer and sickle. That's an ideology. We're talking about the monetary system, the way money is set up. That it's capitalism always goes to crony capitalism, because that's the point, is to make as much profit as you possibly can. So how can you change that and combine it with a system that's not that? I just don't think it works. But again, we could be here all day talking about that. That's another.
And the other side will say, well, this other one eliminates choices, and choices is eliminating freedom. I'm not sticking up for them when not. I'm just saying
that's what they've been
scuttlebutt
told,
we hear and stuff like that.
True.
Well, we got to bring some people on who are not crazy about socialism that we like and stuff. We should probably reach out to Peter Lavelle. Let's see what he has to say. He lived in a socialist country, so he has a lot of things to say about that. Stefan Steeken from the Super Ray. Thank you very much, by the way, for the Super Ray. You guys are doing a great job. I love seeing so many independent news people connecting on Rokfin from across the political spectrum recently. More of that, please. We'll do it for you. Has anyone else watched Joey B. Toon's talk show, Versus the World? I loved it. He should come to Rokfin.
Nope.
I don't know who that is. Is that him right there?
No.
I don't know who that is. Okay, let me get this going over here. Tree Hugger left some more. I love Rokfin and the free market. World Economic Forum is collaborating with corporations all over the world. So much hate. We are free people if we choose to be. Taking a knee to globalist tech will make us slaves to the Great Reset. And that is true. We talked about that the other day. Somebody who said they watched that video, they were cringing the other day, that little commercial they had. We just need to educate each other and ask questions. Biased media is not friendly to critical thinkers. I lost my respect for the mainstream media after seeing its 95% lies and 5% opinion. Tree hugger, don't you know that's why they have to censor us? Because there's a cesspool of QAnoners and other people, whatnot. And the people who are pulling the strings are those 95% of the people who did the lying, who talked about, it might lead to violence if we don't take them down, fam. Really? What did the Iraq war lead to with your weapons of mass distraction? That they, every day on TV, we got to do this. There's weapons, there's weapons, there's weapons, there's weapons, there's weapons. Shouldn't they have to pay a price? Why are the common people paying a price? By the way, 55 people on Rokfin. That's awesome. Let's get it up to 100 like we did the other day. Trey Wright again. I'm pretty sad and hopeless most days in the terms of politics and personal shit. Hey, Trey, hang in there. We all are. But when you guys are on, you give me hope and you keep me sane. I thank the three of you very much. Also, fuck YouTube. Trey Wright, that is beautiful. You keep us going. You guys really do. Thank you so much. That is awesome. And that is the Ray token, Rokfins. Is he on yet or no? Independent Left News is on there too as well. If you haven't gone over to Instagram and get the Independent Left News, there's also a Twitter. He gives you the evening and the morning of the shows that are out there. It's pretty awesome. Instead of searching all over the place, you can just go to the Independent Left News and take a look. Oh, look at this, look at that. He gives you like 10 choices over there each time, and it's pretty cool. 408 of you guys on YouTube, do me a favor, get over to the Rokfin, ROKFIN. Sign up for free, and if you got $9.99 a month, endorse us.
And because we're not being put in the algorithm, make sure to like the YouTube video. There's only 178 likes, and there's 400 watchers. What the hell is that? Come on. Like it, and then go on Rokfin and support Rokfin, because YouTube is censoring us, and it sucks, and they can eat a bag of Richards.
Oh, also, Jesse Quadoro, Leon, left a tip too. Hey, guys, please have Gavin and Gary from the Vanguard on your show.
I don't know who
Who's
that is.
Who's Gavin and Gary from the Vanguard?
No idea.
Jesse, you got to let us know who that is.
Yeah, assume we know everybody. We do what we can, but we don't know everybody.
All right. So we're waiting for our guest. He should be on soon. What should we do then? Should we not jump into the next section, right? Because it's too long.
Yeah, the next section is massively long.
All right. Guys, hit us up in the chat right now. Tell us what you guys want us to talk about this week and stuff that's been on your mind. There's so much stuff going on. With the Wall Street bets, with the... Oh, you know what I want to do is that Time Life magazine wrote that article about the elections.
Let me see. We might have to start because I don't have a lot of time. I have about...
Should we go into the Ecuador stuff or no? Oh, there's another Super Ray. Thank you very much. You're giving us some time here. Mandy Zimmerly. Mandy Zimmerly. Yeah. So a little bit early, so let's... You want to do a quick break? Let's go in Ecuador. By the way, there's 64 watching right now, and it keeps jumping up on the Rokfin. Go over there, Rokfin, ROK.
Yeah, let's just get to Ecuador.
FIN. Okay.
Yeah, he can wait a little bit then. All right, so we're going to talk about Ecuador because Ecuador is fighting against neoliberalism, especially neoliberalism backed by America, the United States, and their allies, Western imperialists. So the Ecuador has had a long history of fighting Western, globalism, and they actually rejected this neoliberal banker who was backed by, of course, the U.S. He was the guy that was backed by our government in favor of a more progressive president and ex-diplomat. Is the one who Mohamed El Mazi interviewed for Sputnik, and he talked to him a little bit about this. I'm just going to name some key points that you should know. During the presidency of the previous Lenin Moreno, Ecuador declined in standard of living. They basically started inputting austerity measures. Lenin Moreno abandoned his original campaign and imposed these austerity measures, and it really led to a very, very terrible system. If you recall, when Julian Assange was protected, it was with the previous president, and as soon as he was removed, then that's when they were able to actually get him. But Ecuador's candidate, the progressive one, Andrés Arauz, won the first round of the country's presidential elections, and this was on February 7th. And Arauz, apparently, there's a lot of election crap going on with that we're going to go over, because apparently he didn't win enough to avoid the second runoff. It's kind of similar to what Bernie was doing, where they were trying to decide if he was going to be able to do it without the super delegates, or it's kind of like when the two progressives come in the jungle primary and they don't have to run a second time. It's very, very if he had enough of the votes, he wouldn't have to run the second runoff, but he didn't. So the election, of course, they're saying there was voter suppression. They're saying that was all kinds of shenanigans, long lines that were going to show, and Ecuadorians were forced to wait in extremely long lines. And this guy that he interviewed, Fidel Narvaez, is the ex-consul and former first secretary of the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And one of the things he was talking about was that the polling stations had long queues, and Ben Norton was actually on the ground in Ecuador. And I want to point out a couple of tweets from him. There's one in this article, Johnny, where he talks about how Andrés Arauz declared victory in the election, and the exit polls show the Socialist Correísta Party beating the right-wing U.S. banker Guillermo Lasso. And this is a victory, okay? And Andrés Arauz was the one who is winning. And they were talking about the long lines. Johnny, if you can go down at the video, at the article where they write that right there. And let's just take a look at some of the long lines that they had.
I was about to say that. Looks like LA. It was like Sherman Oaks that day. Man, it's still going. Still going.
Right. And so they never seen lines like that before, is what everybody was reporting there. So if you scroll down a little bit, there's a tweet by the Gray Zone, and I want to hear a little bit of what he reports. What?
I just like to say that, remembering what happened with Lenin Moreno, too, as well. Lenin Moreno campaigned as a progressive, right?
Yeah, and then he turned,
As soon as he got in, he switched, he turned, he gave up Julian Assange.
Yeah. I was going to go over that.
So the Ecuadorian police have a lot. Ecuadorian people have a lot at stake right here. That's why there's so many people out there, and they'll wait in those lines because they really want to be able to control their own destiny. So.
Okay, so just play the little mini video that's in here. Yeah.
Este gobierno nos ha traicionado a los obreros, a la gente trabajadora, le bajó los sueldos. Por eso apoyo por mi gente, por los de a pie, por eso apoyo.
This is Ben Norton with the Gray Zone. I am in Guayaquil, one of the major cities in Ecuador. And there's a massive demonstration going on, a march through downtown in support of the left-wing candidate Arauz and his vice president. These are the working class citizens of Ecuador who are often ignored in mainstream politics and mainstream media. In Ecuadorian state media, they don't have a voice whatsoever. They're not represented, but they're here out in the streets. And it's very clear, you can see the difference between the supporters of the leftist former president Correa, Rafael Correa, and his movement, Correísmo. You can see that they are much more working class than the elites who support the neoliberal candidate, Guillermo Lasso. So here, I'm going to speak to some of these supporters, and they're going to say why they support Arauz and the Citizens' Revolution launched by Rafael Correa.
Apoyo la revolución ciudadana porque nosotros, los que tenemos esta época, hemos vivido los 50 años del neoliberalismo, las atrocidades que se cometieron, las injusticias. He visto en 10 años del correísmo que nuestros hijos hayan podido estudiar en colegios dignos. He podido participar en la construcción de los hospitales con dignidad para el pueblo, he podido ver que la gente tuvo trabajo, tuvo sueldos dignos y tuvo el reconocimiento de un seguro social.
Ya todo el pueblo ecuatoriano está aquí concentrado porque ya estamos cansados de tanta traición, tanta oligarquía corrupta en el Ecuador. Andrés Arauz y Carlos Barrascal van a volver el futuro a la patria del Ecuador.
La Revolución Ciudadana durante 10 años demostró que se preocupó por lo social, por lo digno, por las cosas materiales y por darle muchas ventajas a los pobres del Ecuador.
Okay, so they specifically said the neoliberal policies. And just so you guys know about Ecuador, Ecuador is a population, of course, just like any other Latin population. They have indigenous, European, and particularly more in Ecuador than in other countries surrounding it, more than in Peru, more than in Bolivia, more than in Chile. Ecuador has a larger population of African Americans or African South Americans who were actually came into the population. As you can see, all of those people that were supportive of the Correísta movement, which is a movement backed by Correa that still continues despite the austerity measures from the previous president, they are extremely they remember how things were back then, because if you look at Guillermo Lasso, who is the neoliberal that they were trying to push, he was one of the richest people in Ecuador. This is his third run as president, and he is, of course, the chosen one by the United States, an investment banker. And he was actually, he lost against Lenin Moreno because, as Pasta said, Lenin Moreno ran as a progressive. He literally was part of the Correísta movement. He turned around as soon as he got in and betrayed them, which often happens every single time you run somebody as a Democrat here, which we're going to talk about in a moment with our guest, if there's any point in that, because this is what happens. Sometimes you can't trust these people, but that's pretty much what happened. And Moreno, of course, betrayed all his voters, and Lasso, of course, was one of the people that that was backed by the West and neoliberalism and the government.
I just think it's kind of crazy, though. A lot of people, in the United States just get so disheartened and say, yeah, I'm done with this process. I'm just not going to participate in it anymore. Where you see in a lot of these Latin American countries down, in South and Central America, where they're like, oh, hell no, we're taking to the streets. We're coming out here. And they understand what's going on. They're very educated what's going on. Hearing her say that we suffered through 50 years of neoliberalism. You ask a lot of people in the street what neoliberalism is, they don't even know. They don't understand that, you're backing a Democratic Party that is just neoliberalism on steroids. Oh, yeah, but they're better for us. They're better for the common man and working man. No, they're not. Yeah. They're going to implement austerity programs really heavily. But in these countries, they've lived through this for so long. And we see this in Ecuador, Chile, Honduras, Guatemala, all these countries where the people are saying enough is enough. And they're really fighting against these puppets who are really backed by the IMF and all these central banks. So they're very, very powerful. They own the media in their countries too as well. So, I mean, just think about the battle that these folks have over there. It's twice as hard as what we got, So if we just got half of their energy, man, we can really, really push back and do something well.
Right. I mean, this is what Ecuador is doing, and I just quickly want to go over this Gray Zone article. If you want to check out the Gray Zone, Norton was on the ground, and then he wrote an article as well. And just to put this into perspective, under Lenin Moreno, who's the president that is now on his way out, who was the one who turned in Julian Assange. Oh, yeah. Unemployment, inequality, and hardship reached peak levels. More than 58% of Ecuadorians were living in poverty, nearly 39% in extreme poverty. And this is according to the United Nations University study. And the GDP in 2020 shrunk by an estimated 11%. And in Quito, which is the capital, there's constant, signs kind of like here for sale, for rent. That's kind of what the United States is turning into. And it's just, Lenin Moreno, I just want to stress, he was extremely, extremely corrupt, and he really benefited from the United States pushing him. Just to reiterate, while overseeing widespread corruption of looting of public money, Moreno government also installed Ecuador with billions of dollars in loans from the IMF. And I just wanted to point that out because that's, it's extreme. And Bax Blumenthal actually interviewed the Correa last year And Correa said specifically this that I do want to read because it's extremely important. He said, in Ecuador, the rule of law has been permanently broken. They seized the state with a completely fraudulent, manipulated consolation in the absence of constitutional control. Using the same methods, they took control of the council that appoints all the supervisory authorities. The government of Ecuador is totally submitted to the interests of the government in the United States, above all to try to persecute progressive leaders and try to threaten the stability of Venezuela. That is evident. So he's bringing in Venezuela here because this is the United States is trying to get control of the surrounding countries to eventually take down Venezuela, who is one of the most the strongest adversaries of the U.S. in terms of not succumbing to the boot of the U.S. empire, not allowing them to get couped. Even Bolivia, managed to recuperate, but they do not want these interactions between Bolivia, Venezuela, and Cuba and Russia. I mean, this is that whole, axis that's arming too. And I just want to read a little bit of the tweets, Johnny. Let's just go to the tweets. There's a couple of them that I wanted to watch that Ben got on because he was on the ground, and he interviewed the foreign minister under President Rafael Correa, who was before Lenin Moreno. And his name is Guillaume Long, and he responds to the landslide victory of the Correísta candidate, Arauz. And this is the first round of the elections, of course.
Norton with the Gray Zone. I'm speaking with Guillaume Long, who's the former foreign minister of Ecuador under former President Rafael Correa, and we're responding to the election results. What's your take?
So we're very happy because the exit polls we're seeing give us give Andrés Arauz and Carlos Rabascal a clear advantage. Talking a 15-point difference. It's a huge difference. So we're extremely happy with that. Obviously, these are polls, they're exit polls, they're not official results. We still don't have any tally sheets available, any results that have been uploaded onto the system of the electoral authorities. So we have to be cautious. These polls don't always include what we call the hidden vote, the people who don't always dare to say whom they voted for. And this is especially important in this current context in Ecuador, where there's been a lot of political persecution, a lot of a stigma associated with being Correísta, with being a progressive, with being... So, I wouldn't be surprised if we could see a wider gap than that, or even a few more points that could get us closer or above the threshold of the 40 points we need in order to win without a runoff. So, I think this is a great result, and it's been a great day for democracy. 76%, I think, of participation is what I just saw on the CNE website. And that's probably, it's always less than the true figure, because in Ecuador there are a lot of migrants who are still kind of registered here, and they're not always discounted. So it's probably 10 points more than that. And in a time of pandemic, in time of COVID-19, it really shows the yearn of the Ecuadorian people to go out there, express themselves through the ballot box, and exercise the civil and political rights. And I think particularly at this time, put an end to this nightmare that we've been living through for 4 years of this terrible government that's been from mismanagement to mismanagement, and also from repression to repression, and through this very sharp authoritarian slide that we've experienced over the last 4 years. People...
They've been under the thumb of the IMF. Of course there's going to be some authoritarianism.
Well, yeah. And also, I just want to reiterate that during Lenin Moreno's reign, which he was just talking about, they actually persecuted the Correístas, the leftists, the progressives, and there's the protests that began under Lenin Moreno, because they began protesting largely throughout Ecuador. They would do the same thing that they do to protesters here, but more recently they actually had the police actually shot and killed several protesters. So it's a little bit different. Like it got a little bit more intense. But this is showing you that these people are fighting for it. They're in the streets. They're actually taking direct action, and they're doing this. Just two more tweets on this. Ben Norton's celebration pictures of the Correista movement celebrating the victory of Andrés Arauz. This was the first round of the elections. There's still more to come. And that was in Quito, Ecuador. Now, one of the things about the election was that there's a lot of voter suppression, like we saw with the lines. There's a lot of distrust in the election system. So Ecuador CNE count is what they're using, has somehow the fake left eco-socialist, because there's another candidate that was actually in third place that all of a sudden rose and surpassed Guillermo Lasso, the U.S.-backed banker. And now look, he's at 20.04%. And Perez is promoted by U.S. corporate lobbyists as well. He has backed coups across Bolivia, and Ecuador, but he was for the Bolivian coup, and the banker Lasso said he'd support him in a second round. So now all the people that had supported this guy, if this guy goes out, they're all going to put their vote towards Yaku Perez. So they have two candidates that they're backing, and they're trying to manipulate this to overtake the candidate Andrés Arauz, who would be the progressive U.S. imperialist candidate, and they're still trying to do this. And
Yaku Perez is a green-branded pro-U.S. Pole cultivated by the National Endowment for Democracy.
Yeah,
your friends are back, ladies and gentlemen. And that's a scary thing right there when you have two candidates that are supposed to be U.S. backed that have more votes than the actual leftist candidate we're talking about from the Correa party. So that's something to look at. And once again, these are not official results. So a lot of fuckery could happen, fam.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do.
They're always trying to do it. That's the U.S. blueprint. So, you know what I'm saying? They run these elections. They control these elections. I think it was your boy Stalin who said it. It's not that those who cast the votes that have power. It's those who count the votes.
Exactly.
That have power. So, to be continued. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll keep going on that. We'll have some people on to talk about that.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
Totally. Should we read the Super Rays real quick, Johnny? Or let's just, all right, real quick. So Eric Munn, he also tipped some Super Ray love. Thank you so much. We talked about Mandy already. There's 79 people watching, guys. We got to get over to that 100. Come on. We're almost there. Christy Nye, thank you so much. You're awesome. She left us a Super Ray. These Super Rays are so much fun, guys. You get a lot more to say. That you don't have to, it's not like YouTube where they charge you so much what to say. You can say what you want for $2, $5, $10. My first tip, keep pushing the truth. Oh, mercy, mercy me. Thank you. That's a song, fam.
I know, fam.
I got you. Eric Munn, thank you, mercy me, by the way. Eric Munn, thank you. Also, Eric Munn left a nice Super Ray. We appreciate that. Those are the Super Rays. I think I got them all. Did I get them all?
Also, like on the Rokfin, guys. If you're on the Rokfin, just hit that like button.
Yeah, hit that like button. Thumbs up. Let's get up in the algorithms over there. 82 watching on the Rokfin.
Let's get
thank
to
you
100.
so much. Let's get to 100. We have 419 watching on the YouTubes. Guys, take the time to get over from YouTube to Rokfin. ROKFIN. Beta testing an Android app. We already have the iPhone app. All new features coming. It's clean. You can leave us some love as well, just like you do on YouTube. Everything that YouTube has, Rokfin has, and it's getting better and better and better. So let's introduce our next guest over here. All right, you know him. He was a backup singer for the NSYNC Boys. But then he decided to do his own show, and
you're so ridiculous.
He was whatchamacallit stand-in for Joni Loves Chachi. Johnny Echevarria is here from the Far Left Show.
Okay, Echevarria.
Echevarria.
Right. Let me just clarify why I'm here, because I think this is really important. I'm here on behalf of DSA and all those who are angry with the Convo Couch. I just wanted to say, you guys are total grifters, total far-right sympathizers. I'm absolutely appalled. I can't believe I'm on the show doing this right now. I don't get why I'm even here, to be honest.
What does DSA stand for again? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Anti-democratic something. But yeah, I just wanted to make that clear in case anyone tries to come at me later.
You got it. You could just play that clip over and over and over again, so therefore they won't hate on you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You said you got the grifters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's here to spy on us for all of DSA. Okay, so yeah, I got a bone to pick with you, DSA. We're gonna talk about that because I have some issues, and I'm not the only one. But first, I want you to say Johnny Echevarria has a show with his girlfriend Natalie, and it's called the Far Left Show. And you should check it out because we have been bringing on smaller channels who are, who are talking about the things that need to be talked about and are very aware of what's going on the ground. So we've been trying to platform new independent media. They're new, they're young, and they're doing the things Jonny teaches, and that's always wonderful to have. And I think it's important that younger people get involved and that you guys are open to looking at new potential people to listen to, because we don't want to be the only ones. We're not here to just be the only voice you listen to. Of course, we love you for listening to us, but we want to make sure we grow independent media, because this isn't about us monetarily. This is about us actually getting the information to the people, especially the younger people who are also in danger of being completely misdirected and completely co-opted. But let's start off with Biden, right?
Wait, I just want to say something real quick. Also, Johnny Echevarria is showing the Far Left Show. They interview a lot of candidates and a lot of people out there. It was kind of like what the Convo Couch did a lot when we first got started. We give people a place that they can't find on the mainstream media. Right. We give them a voice. So I just want to say thank you, Jonathan, for doing that, because a lot of these candidates, a lot of these people running for all these type of offices, they got nowhere to go. They can't even get some tape of themselves answering questions. So you provide an avenue for them to elevate themselves, and that's really hard when they're playing against the big boys. So thank you for doing that, by the way. So
thank you. And we're not even original, like you said. You guys did it, and we thank you, honestly, for being inspirations, because I don't think we would have thought of doing this kind of YouTube channel without you guys, without some other people that we're inspired by. So thank you as well.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. And so many people voted for Biden, Jonny, right? Many people voted for Biden and said they did it to mitigate damage. But Biden is still deporting millions. There's still ICE. We haven't abolished ICE. He's still sanctioning Iran, Venezuela, and Syria. He still hasn't given us the $2,000 that he promised. Now they're saying it's $1,400. Even Bernie is out there saying that it's $1,400. So has anything really changed?
No. Short answer, no. I mean, I'd say that war and imperialism is a bipartisan venture. So let's say like Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, all these different places. It's been Democrat and Republicans who have pushed for these types of imperialist ventures. So in that case, no. I mean, Joe Biden is known to be the person who started his campaign saying that nothing would fundamentally change. And I believe him in that. That's the one thing that I believe Biden when he says. In terms of the $1,400 checks, that was embarrassing that Bernie fell into that sort of Democrat rhetoric and that play. I mean, that one's especially embarrassing because we have so much footage of people saying 2,000 checks right out the door if both of the senators were elected. But in terms of of deportations, that's a really good question of will things be exactly the same? I don't think so.
Right.
But there's a lot of talk, even especially today, of Biden changing some things up in terms of veterans and families of veterans will not be deported, as well as any low, no serious, all serious crimes will probably be deported, national security threats, but anything else outside of that, they're saying no. But the thing with that is there's a couple things that I have to say about that. One is that's not deportations don't really address the problems in our society. It doesn't address scarcity of resources. It doesn't address poverty. It doesn't address intergenerational trauma, a lot of different things that are much more important than deportation. So even saying we're going to deport people who have committed even murder, rape, child abuse, very intense crimes, I think that we gotta focus on some other things. And sometimes the talk about deportations and things like that distracts from the resources that we should be supplying to our communities.
Yeah. When you say that you don't think if there's a possibilities for things to change in deportations, you don't mean it would be better or worse when it comes with the Joe Biden? Because Joe Biden, along with the Obama administration, deported more people than Donald Trump did. And also, we also talk about the main cause of migration, and that is American imperialism. You know, we were just talking about Ecuador, where we have a dog in the race over there that we're backing, a bank or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of those times that we support these leaders in South and Central America, they cause unrest and there's no stability in the country, and people end up fleeing here. And Joe Biden was just awful when it came to that, when it came to Honduras, whatnot, and in Venezuela. Not to say that, Trump was any better, because that's the policies I thought were the most racist, the Monroe Doctrine and stuff like that. But do you think it will be better or worse under Biden, especially since, he was part of the whole Honduran coup against Manuel Zelaya?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think that it reminds me of when Obama was first elected and the LGBTQ community thought that things were going to get a lot better, and immediately things did not get better. It took a lot of activism actually in order for gay marriage to become legal. So I think that that's not an exact parallel at all, because that's a more of a domestic policy, whereas this is foreign policy. I don't know. I'm not very optimistic, but from what they're signaling from the White House right now, it seems like they are trying to make a change. But then again, they lie all the time. I don't know.
They'll make the change maybe like numbers wise or symbolically, but when it comes to continuing our foreign policy, they're still sanctioning these countries, which in turn is going to turn into more immigration issues, that's why we have to get to the root of the problem. But right now, Jonny, there's also a lot of mass censorship. We're demonetized. A lot of other channels like Graham Elwood, the Progressive Soapbox, etc., have also been demonetized. What do you think of mass censorship and the obsession with protecting politicians over people? Look at how big they're making this, because I want you to look at this tweet right here that I have, because here's a video, okay, of these pundits pretty much comparing terrorism in America that happened after, that's happening now, the white domestic terrorist threat, the threat of that, versus what happened during, after 2001, after 9/11, when they were pushing the terror threat, and how they manufactured consent for wars, and how the United States dealt with those threats through drone strikes. They're basically trying to argue that we need to ramp up our strategy when it comes to these white supremacist terrorists. So let's take a look at what they said, and then I'll ask your opinion on it.
It was carried out on. And again, it's not us saying so, John Hyman. That is a bulletin released to all law enforcement earlier this week, that there is, until the end of April, a persistent threat of domestic extremism, domestic terrorism carried out in the ideology and around this belief that the election was fraudulent, that the COVID restrictions are unnecessary. All of those ideologies pushed by Donald Trump. But my question for you is around incitement. We had a policy, and it was very controversial. It was carried out under the Bush years and under the Obama years, of attacking terrorism at its root, of going after and killing, and in the case of Amr al-Awlaki, an American, a Yemeni American, with a drone strike for the crime of inciting violence, inciting terrorism. Mitch McConnell was in the Senate then. He was in the Senate after 9/11 too. How does Mitch McConnell, who understands that the way you root out terrorism is to take on, in the case of Islamic terrorism, kill those who incite it, how does he not vote to convict someone that he said on the floor of the Senate incited an insurrection?
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that is really CNN's so absurd. It's so hard to watch them these days. I'd much rather watch you all, or watch people on YouTube who actually make sense when they talk about things. I think that I guess what they're saying is they're implying that we have to deal with domestic terrorism as intensely, with that much passion and aggression as we do foreign wise. I think that that deals with mass censorship right, as you're talking about, because there, as you can see, people have tried to tie leftists with like the far right now. And so it's sort of this idea of they need to assert this cultural hegemony. This is why, like, one of my favorite guys ever is Antonio Gramsci. He was the leader of the Communist Party in Italy. And he came up with this idea that basically added on to the Marxist theory that, well, one of the most important aspects is the cultural aspect and the overall dominant perspective that people are led to believe. And right now, people are led to believe that we need to be dealing with domestic terrorism aggressively.
Right.
And even if it means shutting people out of websites and, we don't need to know everything about these communities, just get rid of them if they're saying these ridiculous things. That's not good. I mean, that can be twisted, that can be used. That was used in after 9/11. And it was used at the border here, even though it doesn't relate necessarily. They're using this narrative to pressure people into being subordinate, which is smart. I think if I was a world leader, I'd probably do the same. But it's not good.
No, it is smart. But what do you feel about the lines? Because the issue I always had with DSA, for me personally, was that they don't talk enough about foreign policy. But it seems like we practice a lot of our tactics in foreign policy overseas and then just simply brought them home. What are your thoughts about the fact that, they are doing that and that we ignore like groups like DSA and sometimes like a lot of the Democrats we met that you just completely ignore foreign policy
no,
altogether.
they cheer it on.
Yeah.
Like they're like, yeah, we need to go after these people. Like I think there's a line between, like actual threats to what nobody's saying that white supremacy doesn't exist. I mean, we said it on the show. I don't know how many times. Like, yes, it's a thing. It happens. I think it's a very small group of people. I don't think it's the vast majority of Americans. Now, when you have those people, the Capitol riots that happened, that was like, bam, that's it. Like we can use that, and like now we can go after all these people. But they were already doing it. They were already overreaching when it comes to privacy.
Yeah. Well, I think white supremacy, the way that you defined it, I agree. I would say it is a small portion. I would say that the police and ICE and the military is white supremacy as well. And it actually is extremely overwhelming and dominant. And I think a big part of the issue with the insurrection is it led liberals and even some people on the left to cheer on the FBI, to support the FBI and the military, where they are not our friends. They are not supporting us. And they have actually killed plenty of leftists historically and have deported and ostracized plenty of people. But I think DSA was mentioned here. And I agree 100%. I think DSA needs to take stronger stances, especially in terms of like foreign entanglements that we have. But I have this whole list that I wanted to bring up of things that I don't think DSA has done really well. These are some failures, and I'm actually pulling from someone on the East Side, Hector Rivera, who wrote this article titled "The Failures of DSA Are Going to Get Us Killed." So one of the failures is DSA did not participate in Occupy ICE in 2018, which was basically protesters occupying detention centers, which I think was 100% involved with human rights violations. We have DSA failing to act during the pandemic, which they failed to establish mutual aid networks that help communities, the elderly, and nurses who are fighting for PPE. And they also failed during BLM. They should have established a second front and brought all their members in, as well as making Medicare for All the top priority in order to support Black lives, because Medicare for All supports Black lives. Force the Vote should have been up there as well.
Yep.
DSA has also failed with police murders as well. We are not centering voices from the Afro-socialists, socialists of color, and I think that's important, again, for addressing issues that are going on either in the Middle East and Latin America, because that would come up more if leadership paid attention to
absolutely.
Yeah. So those are some of my issues. Again, DSA has done a few things right, but there's a lot of room for growth. That's
and another thing they didn't do is speak out for Julian Assange and for the infringement upon our civil liberties, and specifically the freedom of the press. I mean, as somebody that is involved in that's so dependent on that, and you too, and all of us as Americans, to have the flow of information so people can learn about what DSA is or what they aren't, or what Medicare for All is or what it isn't. We need to have that flow of information, and if that is under threat, that needs to be, as a leftist, like leftists used to be anti-censorship. Like the left used to be the ones that said, no, like I got to speak my mind. Now it's turned into leftists cheering for the censorship, and it's really, really scary, because that is how you co-opt these movements and bring them back into the establishment fold, and you shut down the voices, you make them fringe, you make them unreliable, you discredit the witness, you discredit the people that are doing these things like we're doing by saying, oh, they're fringe, they're all right, they're Nazis, whatever it is you're saying. But that is how you really destroy the flow of information.
Yeah, it's fun when it happens to people on the right, but I think the issue is that the government actually does still lean more right, and they don't actually want leftist voices to be carried across the country. So yeah, you're right. They'll totally get us. They'll do their best.
Well, the whole thing that we have to say that the government is not, is far more right, is that the left keeps abandoning these issues that, now like some people on the right are picking up, like protection of our civil liberties, what I'm saying, and making sure like where are the people on the left speaking out for Julian Assange? Why is it just a few members on the right and then one person on the left who's now gone? So I think that's one thing that DSA has to pick up too as well, is making sure that we protect our civil liberties, making sure we do pay attention to what's going on overseas, because it does come back and affect us at home the way it has.
I think the left is more right now. We're still pretty upset about Jimmy Dore talking to the Boogaloo Boy. So
right.
Once we get over that, we'll focus on censorship.
All right. Well, let's take a look at this other tweet real quick too. I want you to pay attention to this too as well, because talking about civil liberties right now and people getting demonetized or censored, whatnot. So our friend Cullen left a tweet over here. It says, so Marjorie Taylor Greene has apologized for her crazy QAnon conspiracy theories. Yeah, good. Okay. Has Hillary Clinton, queen of warmongering, ever apologized for her Russia hysteria? Has she ever apologized for baselessly calling Tulsi Gabbard an agent of the Kremlin? And, I'm wondering if Joe Biden will ever apologize for saying there were weapons of mass distraction, over in friggin' whatchamacallit in Iraq and going over there. So we see a precedent set over here.
Or the outlets, the journalists, the propagandists, the pundits talking about Russiagate for the last 4 years. Did they ever apologize for that conspiracy theory? I mean, here's the question with that too: is Marjorie Taylor Greene a distraction?
Yeah. Well, Rachel Maddow is definitely one of my favorite pundits that loves to push the Russiagate. She's fun to watch.
Amazing.
I'm excited. Yeah, but I think so Marjorie Greene, she I personally think she's a total weirdo who should not be in Congress based off of her political stances. But I personally think that her narrative is a lot more dangerous, actually, than the Russian narrative for the stability of our country. And for several reasons. I think that, one, it targets liberal members of Congress, but not so much conservative members of Congress. And so I feel like if that movement builds up more, it would actually start to take away from the wins that marginalized communities should be getting at some point. But as for Hillary Clinton's narrative, I personally despised it because it was ultimately used against the Bernie Sanders campaign, Jill Stein's campaign, and that's extremely anti-democratic. I think both are terrible, but the first one is more dangerous to the stability of our country, I think so.
Yeah, but the other one saber rattling with the other nuclear power over there. I mean, we can't underline that right there.
That's true. That's true. I think I mean, these are just narratives that they're feeding the people. I think it's better to scapegoat somebody outside of our country rather than someone inside. I don't like either. I'm not saying one's necessarily better, but possibly for the stability of the country.
So the way I see the Marjorie Taylor Greene thing is as a distraction being used to pretty much further divide the not the establishment parties, but the people. Because when you have people focused on Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean, you had the vast majority of Americans that were Democrat focused on the boogeyman Donald Trump, right? You had him, Donald Trump, oh yeah, he's evil. And then now look at it, all these Trumpers, they're all Q. So Trump's gone. So who are you going to focus? Who's your boogeyman now? Oh, that's right. We got to find Marjorie Taylor Greene. There you go. She's a good one. She's holding a gun in front of the squad, you know? Okay, that's something that she should be reprimanded for, perhaps. Yeah, as a congresswoman. Yeah. But what she said, what they're going after her for, isn't really... I don't think it's QAnon conspiracy theories, because you could say that Russiagate was a conspiracy theory. You could say manufacturing consent for the wars was a conspiracy. But they're going after her because she's questioning the elections. And that's something that, that I think it's dangerous, because anybody should be allowed to question the elections. Now, you have 75 million people. The vast majority of those people don't think the election was fair. So they have the right to question the elections. Now, if they're asking their Congress people, hey, we don't believe the election was fair, it is the duty of that public servant to say, you know what, let's hear you out. So by bringing in the questioning of our elections, that's something that anybody should be able to do. I think they're using QAnon to discredit this woman, and I don't agree with her in ideology at all. But what I do have to say is she seems like the new boogeyman. Her little feud with AOC is just this whole distraction. Meanwhile, we still don't have a stimulus. We still don't have fucking healthcare. We still aren't getting heard. And it's this giant distractive push. And yet, because the Democrats seem to always need a boogeyman to focus on, like, you have to focus on some right-wing boogeyman. So meanwhile, they don't tell you the failures of the Biden administration, because the mainstream media isn't going to talk about it. And then, of course, the people that are talking about this whole thing, we get censored. So I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is a giant distraction. I'm not dismissing that she could have, she shouldn't have gone on there with a gun and taken and propped up a picture. But I think that is also part of the whole theatrics that this pretty much government has become.
Yeah, and her saying is that the government is lying to you right now, whatnot. And how many times has the government lied to us? You know what I'm saying? That's the underlying thesis of everything that's going on. Your government's lying to you. Russiagate was your government lying to you about another country that has the second most nuclear weapons, whatnot, and we shouldn't be saber rattling with them. And like Fiorella said, it's all about not talking about the elections, because what we talk about, election reform, just getting reforms on the elections. Nobody's talking about the systemic issues within the elections and how we can fix them. They don't want to change things, both establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats, and they're just trying to go along with that. So for me, seeing what they're going after her for, I mean, we could just look at these people who have these QAnon conspiracies and say, like, yeah, whatever, bro, I don't believe you. You know what I'm saying? But have they really caused violence? Or has the lie of weapons of mass destruction killed over 1 million Iraqis? You know what I'm saying? So one, I think, is heavier than the other. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I like that. I wanted to say it's interesting. There's this concept by Friedrich Nietzsche. He wrote about this in The Antichrist, and it's about slave morality versus master morality. And he actually talks about, really quick, this is just something I was learning about, and it actually goes along with this. He says that people who care for the weak and for the poor, like you mentioned, how you dislike the war because it killed so many innocent people. He said that's a very Christian value, and it's actually a bad value to have. You actually need the master morality, which you protect your country and your state, but you should be you should be an atheist, and you should also not worry about the weak. So I feel like you guys are actually a lot more Christian than the establishment.
Yeah, right. Because we're looking at it. Well, I don't see a separation between our foreign and domestic, because it's exactly our foreign policy that they're now bringing into domestically, and that started to happening when we were covering the protests, when we saw the Fed coming in and basically gassing everybody that was there with actual ammunition, like ammunition that is hazardous, harmful, like weapons of war. They brought those weapons, and that is a fraction of what we do abroad. And you're right, that is, I mean, it's not, I'm not a Christian at all, but I for me, it's a matter of like, if we're going to talk about white supremacy, if you're going to pat yourself on the back for being a loyal Democrat and saying, well, I voted for Joe Biden, the author of the 1994 crime bill, the guy who was really pro-war in Iraq, and then you're not going to take a look at what we're doing to these countries in the Middle East. It's the same thing that Trump was doing, or worse. A lot of people in Syria are saying things are going to get worse under a Biden administration. So to me, it's hypocritical. It's like you're only looking at one side of it, right? You're not looking at the other. And so right now, people are really poor, and they don't have a lot of things to do, and a lot of mechanisms of you can't really go out there and protest as much. There's a lot of, push to stay home still. They don't have a stimulus. They don't have health care. And there was this tweet, Johnny, that this person, I can't pull it up in here. It's not coming up. Okay, so I guess the tweet was unavailable, but it was basically this guy that was tweeting that his wife had been sexually assaulted. And because there was a lawsuit that they gained some money for that assault, that they weren't getting this money, this stimulus. And it's crazy that's happening under the Biden administration. Yeah. It's crazy that so many things are happening under the Biden administration. They
counted it as salary, in other words. The money she made from the settlement was counted as salary, so therefore they were denying her a stimulus check because of the lawsuit.
So are people propelled enough to do you think, to organize and actually have, whether it's a general strike or whether it's some sort of, movement against the government, or do you think people are still going to sit back and wait and see what happens?
Whew, that's a big question. I think that in my local area, I'm the DSA coordinator for the east side of Los Angeles, and I think that a lot of people here are excited to organize. But the main issue, I think, is that National needs to set up a better structure for people to get involved, especially right now. I was talking to someone who wants to start having sit-ins, who wants to go talk about socialism like at parks and public areas, obviously socially distanced and with masks on, but actually be out there. Because a lot of times people in DSA are better at working at call centers for campaigns than they are for going out and really being bold about socialism. And our goal as socialists is to get out there, take those risks, and let people see that and be influenced to continue to advocate for themselves and for others in that same way. So I think what you're saying is we need to pull that energy out of us, because I think we have it for this moment. We just need to unlock it.
Well, staying on that topic right now, let's talk about the divide between MPP and DSA. Our Ryan Knight left a little tweet up the other day. He says, "I'm stepping back from my advisory council of the People's Party. I believe we need a viable third party in America that represents the interests of the people, not corporations. But I believe it must be rooted in socialism. I wish them nothing but solidarity in their vision." Fam, did you have anything to say about this real quick before Johnny answers this right now? Because I think there was a little bit more talk.
Right. So I just wanted to show Pasta 2 his other tweet on DSA, because people were like, well, DSA, and he's like, yeah, but I don't, like, DSA doesn't do it for me either. And he said, I don't see the benefit of organizing mass movements into capitalist party that kills them. I've supported local DSA chapters when they push for policies and initiatives, but I disagree with them socialist national strategy of funneling movements into the Democratic Party to die. Ooh. Okay, Johnny, first of all, your thoughts on both of these statements, both MPP and the criticisms of DSA.
Okay. So MPP with Ryan the Socialist, total grifter, again, one of those grifters on social media. Just kidding. I love his tweets. I think he's on point with his ideas. As for the organizational structure of MPP, I actually don't know too much about it because I haven't gotten involved with it. I know that Our Revolution brought up that there were a lot of issues, so they actually pulled out of the MPP.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what might happen if political commentators and podcasters sort of start a movement without bringing too many organizers in. Now, that might seem like kind of a, I don't know, offhand comment, but it could be true. I mean, if there's no bylaws, no rules, no transparency, then people aren't going to buy into that.
Yeah, I mean, 100% when it comes to just MPP, real quick, Pasta and I, we were aware of the shortcomings of MPP. We didn't, advocate against them or anything, but we just kind of stepped aside and said, all right, we have our concerns with MPP. We interviewed Nick Brana. We always like to show both sides. But here's the thing with MPP, one of the things I knew talking to organizers and actually being on the ground was that, yeah, there was that lack of connection between organizers and a lot of the MPP people. And I knew that was going to come back and bite them in the ass, because you cannot build a movement just on social media. It has to be on the ground. And that was always a criticism. We said, like, no, we got to get some of these organizers to trust. And a lot of them just did not like Nick Brana, and they refused to work with him. And no matter how much I try to be like, okay, here, talk to this person and that person, it just didn't work out. Now, I have my issues with Our Revolution in general. I feel the same way, if not worse than DSA. They are the national organization, I know for a fact, is entirely co-opted. They were extremely against force of the vote. I have friends who work in local ORs that were trying to push force of the vote that got reprimanded heavily, saying Jimmy Dore is not our friend. Like all these things like that are so stupid. Like, it's Medicare for all is your thing. Like, you're not pushing for it. When it comes to DSA, though, Johnny, do you think what is your answer to that? Because that is my criticism of DSA.
Yeah.
I do not believe in the Democratic Party. I believe that, we're talking about socialism. It is antithetical to what the Democratic Party represents. How do you rationalize building something like democratic socialism or socialism within the confines of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I saw that tweet where Ryan the Socialist was, or Ryan Knight, I always call him Ryan the Socialist. He said that basically DSA funnels people into the Democratic Party for movements to die. And then I know Jabari Brisport commented, and here he replied, and he said, "Oh, I was a Green Party candidate and DSA supported me. And then I was a Democratic candidate and DSA supported me and I won." And it was like, okay, great. You were a Green Party candidate. He was the one Green Party candidate that they supported.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's one, but we need to step it up. We need to actually support Green Party. I think people in, like we mentioned, the Socialist Alternative, a bunch of different groups, we actually really need to get in there. And if national won't do it, then we'll do it locally. And that's what we're really working on right now, is bringing people together and starting our own organizations and groups that are not, at the moment, not beholden to any big interests. We'll see what happens, though.
I like the local move.
Yeah.
Do it locally. You know what I'm saying? Because, what Fee was just saying right over there, and what you just talked about, too, as well, is that it was in that charter for DSA to force the vote of sorts.
Right.
Then when they forced the vote, DSA was nowhere to be found. They actually backed off it because it seemed like it was anti-democratic party for them, fam. I don't know. So
yeah, and let's just talk about that for a second, because it was weird when we went to DC. There was a couple of DSA people. One of them was actually carrying a sign like "Force the Vote." But they were like, we know a lot of the DSA leadership isn't supporting force the vote, but we are. So there's also, once again, just like in unions and just like in any org, the national, but the leadership versus the membership is a little bit different, and there's that power struggle too as well. Can you speak more? How does DSA combat that? Because where I stand right now, I'm not really trusting of DSA. I'm not trusting, I'm not going to sit there and focus my energy on bringing them down at all. But I do think there needs to be like a push to be like, okay, are we going to do direct actions? Because the moment is here to where people need leadership to go towards direct actions, and they don't trust really central type of orgs that get so easily co-opted to lead that struggle.
Well, this is why I like you guys, because you bring up these types of criticisms for DSA that I don't find anywhere else, really. And I think that people in DSA, first off, just the membership, rank and file membership, need to relax and not take these criticisms so seriously. I was talking to our communications director for DSA LA, and we were like, we got to come up with like a workshop or something to teach people how to productively engage with people who criticize DSA online. Because I think we're turning away a lot of membership actually by acting so aggressive towards people who talk about force the vote or Jimmy Dore or whatever else. But I think that we need to build that movement within DSA and ask for, not just ask, but aggressively push for a relationship of correspondence between national DSA and rank and file members. Because right now, it's sort of like the Democratic Party itself. And so it's difficult to get our voices heard 100%. So we're really pushing for that.
Right. That's the thing. That's what a lot of people don't know. And that's why we wanted to bring you on, is that DSA is just like any other organization. There are voices being shut out too. Yeah. So like, this is why when people are like, oh, screw DSA, the whole thing. I'm like, listen, like, I know people locally who do great things, but the organization as a whole, I don't trust. And I just wanted to show you this. This is one aspect. This is an example of how you don't act. This person is DSA, and this person said to Ryan Knight, they called him. They said, I'm not even going to say it. This is Hot Girl Meg. She's a DSA member. This DSA person retweeted Hot Girl Meg, I'm sorry, and they said, hell nah, this Lil F just pissed me off. And so they called him the F word, right? And multiple people attacked him, right, for pointing out that it doesn't make sense to organize movements. And that's his opinion. If you have a way to say, well, this is going to help this way, then that's fine. But to call somebody names just because they're giving a fair, constructive criticism, like I said, that's my criticism too, is exactly how you do not talk to people, right? So if you have anything to say to people who are like turned off by DSA because this is like the attacks they're getting.
Yeah. There's bad apples in every group. I think those are definitely the bad apples. If we put that workshop that I mentioned together, we're going to use those as what not to do. I think it's embarrassing. It's humiliating. I condemn those statements, and I think anyone in DSA should condemn people who are attacking others for like just simple strategic disagreements. Like, they got to relax. If we're really socialists, we shouldn't be using that language, and we should be bringing people in. Incredibly inclusive is what we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right. Open to educating people.
I think we got to stop with the cancel culture across the board. I say we have to be comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. Get in there and talk to people. That includes even talking to everybody on all sides of the political spectrum. Jonny, thank you so much for joining us today. You're awesome. Tell everybody out there where they can find you and find more of you. And I hate this whole COVID. I haven't been able to see you since the Democratic convention when we were just like, we were chilling with Jonny and Natalie in the streets. Tell us where we can find you.
Find us at The Far Left Show on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find my Instagram, Jechava. That's JECHAVA. Best places to find us. I want to thank you, Fiorella, Pasta, Jonny who's back there, anyone else who's part of the Convo Couch. Y'all rock. It's been amazing to see how you've like skyrocketed in subscribers, and like the quality of your show is just like going up and up and up. You guys are doing great, an inspiration to us. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for bringing in your perspective. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we love you, man. You're amazing, and we hope to see more of you, buddy.
Yeah.
You really are.
Take care. Love you guys.
Love you too. Oh, there's my big face right there.
And we we don't agree with Jonny on everything. Clearly, like there was some pushback with MTG and all these things. Like, and it's not even like I'm defending MTG. I just think that they're manipulating, the Democratic Party is manipulating this whole thing. But again, Jonny is one of the people that when on neoliberal Facebook, which is like it's a bunch of Democrats now on Facebook, he's always like, no, the Convo Couch needs to be there. Why? Because we push back on this. Like everybody else that's in the synthetic left. They're all DSA, but they don't ever criticize DSA. They don't ever criticize Bernie. They don't criticize AOC. It's like for us, it's like, they say that we're far right, but we're actually further to the left because we're telling you, my issue with DSA is I don't believe in putting a socialist construct under capitalist. Like what? How does that work under the Democratic Party? But what their whole thing is that they're trying to basically push that into the Democratic Party. Now, I think the Democratic Party is just too far gone. But you also have to pay attention, Pasta. We have to admit, MPP, the Green Party, and all these third parties don't have their shit together. Yeah. They don't have their shit together, fam.
But I want to say one thing. He has his shit together. This guy has always been this way. I remember talking to him at the Democratic Convention when he didn't even know that I was going to be supporting Tulsi and why, and we started talking about the issues. And he was just so open to it and understanding and stuff like that.
That's how people should be.
He's very comfortable with uncomfortable situations. He even brought it on the show. We have to stop our members from flipping the fuck out and going crazy right here and just have conversations like what you brought up with that person saying, oh, they immediately attack. It's the cancel culture. It's bullshit. We need to stop that stuff. And that's what I've always loved about Jonny, because he's always willing to talk to everybody, regardless of their opinion or not. And that's the way it should be, fam. That's the way it should be, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's get to these Super Rays because we got to get out of here.
Yep.
Chuckles Last Laughed. I love that name. Thank you very much for the Super Ray. Happy to support the Convo Couch. Selection of topics and choosing the right questions is so important. We truly do appreciate your efforts. Let's keep Rokfin growing, baby. You hear Chuckles over there, guys? Get on over to the Rokfin, ROKFIM, the Rock-O-Bummer. He gave us a Super Ray. The Rock-O-Bummer. Thank you so much.
The name.
The Gone Girl. The Gone Girl. I keep on saying Gone Girl because we did You Gone Girl. You Gone Girl. The Gone Girl, like Gong. The Dems and Republicans' corruption is so blatant now with the help of mainstream media. Indie voices are more important than ever. Love from France. Thank
Viva
you so
la
much,
France.
Gone Girl.
Viva la revolution.
We appreciate it. Jose Tavares, how you doing, Jose? Is in the house. If the FBI or the DOJ actually upheld white crimes and persecuted any elected officials in D.C., the Beltway would be completely empty.
Hell
no
yeah.
shit across the board, man. Insider trading she talked about before. Everybody's got their hand in the cookie jar. Emlyn Fate, or Emlyn Fate. You guys covered Hampton before the neo-progressives Googled him and bastardized his message. Johnny, we were just talking about it yesterday. And Niko even said it. Like, you guys, we were talking about Fred Hampton before anybody. Then all of a sudden, we come out with these stories. People start Googling him, and they start coming back at us. Like, dude, we've been talking about Fred Hampton for a couple of years now. Since Black History Month, I figured you might want to cover Kwame Ture, who Bill Clinton at John Lewis's funeral said he's glad African people didn't become like Kwame, meaning he had something helpful to say, and Bill hated that. Please cover if you can. His name is Kwame Ture. Okay, we'll take a look at it. Embled definitely will. Kwame Ture, we'll take a look at it. As long as it's not the Ture from mainstream media, that's all I care about. Embled Fate, okay. Also forgot to say last week, Debbie Wasserman Schultz called to repeal green. I don't like green, but how is a brazen cheater thief like Debbie allowed to be taken serious and judge anyone and mainstream media love her still, even though she rigged her election and Bernie's? I mean, it's disgusting what she did. She never paid the price. I mean, they got caught red-handed. Brenda Snipes, who was a little disciple of hers, burnt, all the balances, destroyed them all. So it's just crazy that they did that, and that's all the Super Rays for today. Thank you so much for joining in. We had about 81 people. We didn't get to 100 this time, but maybe next time we will get to 100. Johnny, do you have anything to close out the show with? Okay, so that's it. Guys, remember, you had so many people over there on YouTube today. Get over to the Rokfin, Rokfin. Fam, you want to tell everybody where we're going to be today? Where you're going to be, then we'll be later.
Oh, well, I'm going to be on Hardlines in a little bit, so go watch Hardlines, and I'm going to get into a fight with Kit because it's always New York pizza, not Chicago. Don't give me that bullshit, number one. Number two, we're going to be doing a segment with Dick Medhurst. If you don't know who Dick is, look it up, Dick Medhurst. And, yeah, we'll be doing that after. I don't know if he's going to put it on I think he's going to put it on his other thing. Yeah. So we'll put the link up when it's available, but so you'll be seeing us later.
So that's it. So for Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Johnny Sue on the ones and twos,
Convo out. Thank
you to all our Patreons, PayPal lovers, and Rockfinners, and even if you watch the YouTube, we love you too. But get over to Rockfin.